Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
That's right, you are listening to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast. This is Jeff Reynolds, your show host, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who is more awesome than that new car smell. It's Kristen Ashton. Kristen, did you see the new Tesla was unveiled recently?
I didn't see that, but that's incredible. And all I can imagine now, that new car smell combined with a car that has leather seats. I love that smell of fresh leather, especially in cars, because it just permeates everything.
Well, the fact that the fact that everyone loves the smell so much that they literally bottled it. Like, you can go and buy the new car smell and spray it all over your car and try to make it smell good again, and never really smells exactly like it did when the car first came out. Or maybe you want to, put it in your house to feel like you're always driving, which I'm always driving anyway because I live in Southern California. And now we're just rambling about new car smells. This is season 2, episode number 83 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. And speaking of Heroes of the Storm, Garrosh, Kristen, solo tank, what can you say?
Right, we can say we are super excited. At least I am, and it sounds like you are too. Garrosh, he's going to be a solo tank. I think there was talk he was going to be kind of like a cross assassin or anything. Maybe he would even be a bruiser. But the fact that he's going to be strong enough to stand his ground by himself, especially with this armor up, the one armor for every 2% of max health missing, he is going to be surprisingly resilient.
Absolutely. I forget the fact that it's Garrosh altogether. I mean, you could really forget all of that and just focus on the fact that this tune is a solo tank, and I think will be a super powerful solo tank because of all of the damage that you can take, and the throwing of your own teammates and the throwing of the enemy into positions, and the whole, I mean, this character is going to be really powerful, and I can't wait to see it in the hands of some people that really know what they're doing.
Exactly, and this may be the most genius move Blizzard's ever made, because Garrosh, as this tank who's coming to Heroes, is going to be all about disruption. All about disruption. And what was he in Warlords of Draenor? All about disruption. So we see this clear combination of a weird place he was at in Draenor kind of coming into the Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great point. I didn't think of that. That is perfect. I mean, disruption is the main game here. We can only assume he's hitting the PTR tomorrow, Monday, I believe I saw a tweet from Blizz Heroes. So there's a lot of anticipation behind him. People are hoping that, he lives up to what his little video looks like. Speaking of that in development video that we got featuring, the thing that I see, there are two things that really reach out to me in that video, and I think one of them is the Templar Li Ming skin, right? That is so cool.
Oh, totally, but what about a Nubalisk?
A Nubalisk takes the cake. That's the best thing in that video, I think.
He's so cute. I mean, and of course the great part is now you can have color variation. So it's not like they're going to zerg everything and you have to go with the purple. I mean, the way we do it now, you can have any kind of color scheme and it's great. And we already know how wonderful the Butcherlisk skin. So maybe now we can finally move toward this happy place where it's an all zerg team all the time.
All zerg all the time. It doesn't sound like a very happy place. I mean, maybe it's like brooding. Get it? Brooding?
But Tish, if you're a Zerg, I'm sure an all Zerg all the time would be very happy, very cozy, especially if you're a little larva who's just getting going. And, you got Zagara there to take care of them, and Murky's using you to defend. It's a good time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you have a chance to watch the Bloodlust tournament at all this weekend?
I didn't, but I hear that it's been handled very, very well. Everyone's having a ton of fun with it. Have you gotten to watch it?
I did, and we're not going to say any spoilers because this is still Sunday, and I know that it ended today. So get out there and watch the VODs. This was really great, and it's really unbelievable. We were on the Team League stream for Kyle Ferguson this weekend, and we were kind of just chatting back and forth about how these teams that play in the HGC have not had any time off. I mean, they're tournament after tournament after tournament after game. And then when they have one weekend off is when they're going to roll with this Bloodlust tournament. And some of them were there, which is crazy to me. They can't get enough heroes.
Right, talk about dedication to your craft. That's really, really neat. And I wonder, though, on the back end, what kind of break schedule they have going on, right? Because with football, you have off season, and then you have the big rush during the main season of it, and then it's off season, you can rest up again. So I'm wondering how that works behind the scenes with Heroes.
Yeah, I am too. And then there are other sports that have much longer seasons, like baseball or golf is a full year. Every single weekend there's a tournament. So, I mean, maybe they're following something like that. Who cares? I mean, if they're up for it, I'm ready to watch it. I mean, I love watching it. So as a viewer, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the new things they can teach us, it's really cool to see so much dedication and love with the community.
Absolutely, and that is something that we all have here listening and recording this show even. There's tons of hype around this game, so let's get to it and let's forge.
Let's forge.
HeroesForge is all about theory crafting heroes for the Nexus, characters that haven't been put into the fold of the game quite yet. We know that Blizz Heroes has more than 300 plus characters on a roster that they're working on for this game, and so we like to talk about it week after week, what it might be like if one of those characters joined in, and what their kit would even look like. And so, Kristen, this week, I mean, we throw this Twitter poll up on Twitter every week where you can vote on which one of the characters or which one of the kits you think was the better of the two from the week. And we have a constant, back and forth here. And we had another tie this week. So I went ahead and picked. Well, why don't you tell everybody who we're forging this week on the show?
Nice. This week, we bring in the second Murloc to be forged on HeroesForge. And his name is Morgl the Oracle.
That's right. We did do another Murloc, or you did rather, with Jocelyn Moffat from the Angry Chicken when I was away one weekend. That was like a year ago. So this is like our yearly Murloc forging here. And this one, you might be scratching your head. Who is Morgl the Oracle? Who, what, where, why, and how? Well, Kristen's going to tell you a little bit about Morgl. Go for it, Kristen.
Certainly can. A Hearthstone original, Morgl is an alternative to Thrall for shaman decks. Member of the Earthen Ring, and so powerful even the mighty war chief bends a knee, this masterful Murloc holds sway over the very elements themselves. Though wise and a fount of knowledge, few, if any, can truly understand his cryptic utterances.
So he's a shaman. He's a Murloc shaman. And if you don't know what Morgl looks like, I mean, you can see him in Hearthstone. He's got a really cute little, intro video that introduces him in Hearthstone. He's one of the playable heroes that, as Kristen said, takes over for Thrall if you do run a shaman deck. He's got his own personal emotes and cool, fun stuff. He's a Murloc with a shaman robe. He's got some lightning in his offhand that he's ready to throw at the enemy, and in his other hand he's got a staff, and at the top of the staff is a literal fish bowl full of fish. I mean, it might be a little morbid. I mean, this is his own kind, right?
Yeah, but maybe these are the babies he's raising, because we don't know how long it takes for a Murloc to fully develop. So maybe these are the young he's taking care of until they reach a certain age when they can join a different pool for the toddlers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twitchikins in the chat is saying that he's also in the Shaman class hall in World of Warcraft. I love stuff like that. I love when they bring him over, because he is a Hearthstone original, as you said. So, I mean, anytime you can get more Murlocs, the better.
Oh, exactly. I mean, to be honest, if I had reign over choosing all the time and I didn't limit myself, we would have done nothing but Murlocs.
That's right. Week after week, just a Murloc after Warrior Murloc, Shaman Murloc, just on and on and on. This is a ton of fun when we talk about characters like this, because although he does have this small little backstory, as we always say, we can expand from there and kind of just have a bunch of fun. So let's get to it. If this is your first time listening, we're going to go through each part of the kit here one by one, and then at the end of the show, as said before, you can follow us on Twitter and then cast your vote. Our Twitter handle is @ForgeHeroes. All right, Kristen, you're going to start it off this week. So the first thing we always talk about is their role classification in the game. So what role classification are you going with here?
All right, the one I'm going with, I decided assassin, and he would be burst. So very much a Kael'thas, a Li Ming, a Jaina. He would join the rank of those sorcerers and sorceresses.
All right, so another mage then, like a full-on mage burst.
Exactly, and I know Thrall is very much more single target, right? You can do a poke build, which is a tad more bursty, but why not have a shaman then come in to cover the other side? So if you wanted to run 2 shamans, your bases would be covered.
All right, well, Chad is already kind of theory crafting what you're going to say. I'm assuming there'll be like lightning and things in your build.
I don't know. Maybe there will be more fish slime than lightning. We'll have to see, right? We got to stay true to the Murloc here.
Absolutely. So, question for you, because this is a question that will come up from most people that are listening about Murlocs, is what are you thinking in regards to health pool, and what about the whole Murky aspect of the game right now, where if he dies, it doesn't count as a full hero kill and all of those sorts of things? Is Morgl going to be a full-fledged hero in the game with a full health pool, or do you think he'll have that same Murky reduced health pool and maybe even lay an egg, or what do you think?
Fantastic question. I would go with him being a full-fledged hero. Full-fledged, he would have a decent amount of health, and he wouldn't lay eggs or anything, simply because Morgl is an elder of the species, and it's hinted at that he's even stronger than Thrall is. So with respect to that limited lore that we have, I think he would need to be a full hero.
All right, here we go. Then what is this full hero, Morgl the Oracle Assassin's trait?
All right, the trait, we are pulling straight from Hearthstone. We're actually going to be pulling a lot from Hearthstone and trying to capture a shaman deck of the time. Of course, a little altered to kind of fit heroes, to add a bit more flavor to it. But we're going with Totemic Call. And Morgl is going to call down a random totem blessed by the elements that provides a buff for his team. 1 heals, 1 increases basic attack damage, 1 increases ability damage, and 1 provides armor.
All right, so talking here, is this something that you have to choose at the start of the game as your level 1 trait, kind of like a Kharazim feel? Or is this something that you can be constantly selecting throughout the game on which one you're going to throw down?
Well, that's the thing. You don't get to choose specifically which one you throw down. You activate your D, and one of these is randomly chosen to appear.
Ooh, so that's the Hearthstone feel you're going for there on this ability. You got a little bit of a random number generator in here where you're just hitting your trait and hoping you're getting the one. And talk about the esports moments you could have if you threw down one that gave heals and it healed somebody up right before they died, or the attack damage, you finally got that pick off of someone, or the ability damage would be huge too. I mean, this is a hybrid of abilities that we already know and love in Heroes. Like, I'm thinking Kharazim, I'm thinking the banners that you can lay down as Varian, like lots of different things in here, but all combined into one.
Exactly. And then also we get totems that are used for good rather than for ill. Rhaegar. Got to go through the R's really quickly before you can find the right one, right? But there's one that's lightning, and that stinks, and then there's the slow. So why don't we have totems that are blessed by the earth to help your team?
Heck yeah, I love it. I think that's so cool. And I believe it or not, I do think that the randomness, because they're all positive aspects, could work in the game. I mean, it could work if it was looking for that Hearthstone feel. What about mounting?
The mount, I think if we're going with the idea, the coolness that the shamans are harnessing the power of the earth, the elements, all of them, you got to write an elemental. And of course, the skin, since we can change skins willy-nilly and you can use shards to buy whatever tint you want, you could have fire, you could have ice, you could have earth, you could have wind, but all the same, you would have an elemental.
Oh yeah, like the shaman class mount is so cool in Legion. I mean, the elemental is such a cool idea that I didn't think of. I mean, that is so cool. I love it. And back to your trait, Chad is saying a couple of cool things here, saying that it might be better if it's a level 1 choice, but if it wasn't a choice, maybe these totems can be even stronger. Like if they're stronger because you don't get to choose, I think that's a really good give and take there.
Totally, totally. So when you lay it down, it makes a notable difference, regardless of which one it is. Certainly, certainly. And then you could control that maybe with the cooldown of the talent, so it doesn't get out of hand, or of the trait. But what if then you had a talent that reduced the cooldown of the trait, but weakened the effects of the totems?
Oh, I love it. That is such a cool thing. Really great idea. Let's get on to basic abilities here. Let's start with the first one. What are you calling it?
We're calling it Lightning Bolt. Plain and simple, beautiful, pure, wonderful. Using his illustrious staff, Morgl shoots forth one of the greatest elements to be mastered by a shaman, lightning. This ability gives Morgl 3 charges that can be shot off in quick succession or used to slowly but surely poke out an area.
Love it. So when you say 3 charges, is this you're activating it 3 times, kind of like Stukov's level 20 for his flailing swing or whatever it is, where you can activate it each time in succession when you want to?
Exactly. I wanted to differentiate this from Thrall because his bounces. So why don't you give Morgl a few stacks where it only does single target damage, but you can pop them out in quick succession if you want to, or you can kind of sit on it based on whatever the situation is.
So is this a skill shot ability, or are you automatically hitting a targeted hero?
I like to imagine this would be an auto hit. You simply have to be close enough to choose the target.
Oh, I love it. It's like a cool combo of all those abilities, and then Falstad's lightning in there too, where you're it's the same kind of thought in a way, but you're in this area where you have the ability to choose when it hits. I think that's great.
Exactly. And what if the lightning too, if we're going with building lore for this guy, comes from the little Murlocs he's got swimming around in his staff? So they get a little tuckered when you harness their lightning ability that all Murlocs get when they're babies. And so they gotta rest, and that's when the recharge happens.
Yeah, and imagine if the animation was so detailed that you could actually see them getting tired inside of the little fishbowl.
Right, as they're holding their arms aloft, summoning lightning down and out of their fingertips.
I love it. I love it. Just a really awesome basic lightning attack here, but with a lot of control, having 3 charges that you choose the target. So what about the second basic ability?
All right, the second one is called Rockbiter Weapons. What is a shaman without his named weapon? And what good is a shaman's team without such protection? When cast, all nearby allies' weapons are granted extra attack in that when they hit an enemy, power explodes outward, doing area damage.
Oh, this is awesome. So you're basically giving your friendly team an AoE explosion on their auto attacks.
Exactly. Yes. So maybe like visually it would look like a shield on their auto attack weapon, and as soon as the auto attack hits, there's an explosion.
Nice. So what does this look like for ranged abilities? So let's say that Zul'jin he throws his axe in there. The explosion, I'm guessing, happens where the axe hits, not where he's throwing it from.
Correct. So maybe whatever it is that flies forward, that's what has the little power shield on it, so that you know that's the hit that's going to cause the damage and take advantage of Morghl's ability.
Oh, that is so cool. That's like an instant living bomb on the enemy, right? Because they have they have to be spread out in order to not take double damage from auto attacks from other characters.
Exactly. And imagine if you're all targeting one person and then all of your auto attacks simultaneously have that explosion on it. Say goodbye.
That's
Say goodbye
right.
to that enemy.
Or in a mosh pit or something crazy. I mean, where everybody's standing together already and then auto attacking like crazy in there. Wow. And let's face the fact here. Rockbiter Weapon is a card in Shaman decks that is very let's say active. It's in a lot of decks.
I did. I was going through the shaman decks that were popular when Morgl released, and that one did come up a few times. So it was definitely one of the favorites that I wanted to make sure made some sort of appearance.
Oh yeah, you did great. I love that. It's so cool. Because it kind of it morphs the way that the enemy team has to, they can't stack on top of each other because they're all going to be taking a lot of damage. And then I'm picturing like a Lunara jumping around and doing some crazy stuff and blowing people up. I mean, it's like a really support ability too.
It is, yeah, and it kind of felt right because Morgul's a small dude, and it just feels like, with as old as he is too, he would have kind of moved toward a more team-based perspective when it comes to fighting. Because, sure, fighting by himself in one fight, he could probably take down everybody, but after that one fight, he'll need a lot of time to recover. So maybe to make up with that deficiency in his age and energy, he's turned toward that more group-centric fight.
Yeah, it's so cool. Now, I have a question for you that's a little bit off topic here, but I was playing some games with my friends this weekend, and we were playing, and I was sort of kidding, but kind of feeling this in the moment where I said, sometimes being a support character is a thankless job. Like, because we're running around, and I'm just like, man, I'm exhausted over here, and it really sometimes feels like a thankless job. So my question with this ability here, with this specific thing, is if you give Rockbiter weapon to your friendly teammates and they're dishing out damage like crazy and the meters are just pumping up on their side here, would it be possible to, well, I don't know we don't know if it would be possible or not, but would it be something that would be good for the game to give that damage to Morgl, to say, yeah, you can have your basic attack damage, but in the meters and us tracking how much damage we're doing, we're going to give that little bit of explosion damage at the end from Rockbiter weapon to Morgl on the stats.
I see what you're saying. Oh man, that's a tough one, right? Because it's his blessing, right? But at the same time, the teammates are the one casting the basic abilities, which hit regardless, right? Basic abilities hit unless someone has their block on. Oh, so maybe a percentage, maybe. I guess. Ugh. Oh, what do you even do?
It's really not necessary. I was just feeling that in the moment where I was thinking, well, if I give you a stim drone, of course you're going to have a whole bunch of damage put out. And, I'm not going to get MVP for giving you a stim drone.
At the right time, when it's the right person on your team who's been attacking the right people. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, how do you even begin to put that in there?
I think it's a way too deep wormhole to go into, and that is my venting on playing games in Quick Match. So let's move on to your third basic ability. What's it called?
Oh, the third one, we are channeling lava this time with Lava Burst. Summoning and churning the lava below the Nexus, Morgl calls it forth, exploding the ground underneath the feet of his enemies. The enemies then receive immediate burst damage and ongoing damage should they choose to remain standing in the puddle of lava now at their feet.
Nice. And I can foresee this having a talent choice where it slows people that are in there. Or, and we're talking all the elements here. Morgl is the Oracle.
He is master of everything. Thrall doesn't have a thing on this little guy.
I think Thrall even says something to that effect. He says, this guy is really good.
Exactly. Do judge him by his size. Do not.
Yeah, he's like the same size as Yoda. This is a really cool ability, Lava Burst. I love how colorful you've made this character because he is a colorful dude. He's got a lot of, he's a Murloc. So this is really, really cool to add multiple elements in here. And I just love the lava coming from the ground.
Definitely. And this is the bad terrain, we've talked about plenty of times before. I think it's just something we really, really like, where you do an ability and it leaves something gross on the ground. Roots with Malfurion, right? It's just a really, really cool, simple way to zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that they're not afraid in the game to have abilities that are similar to other heroes' abilities, but just slightly different, to where, it just changes the flavor just a little bit, or how it combines with the other basic and heroic abilities of that character is crazy. Because some of Garrosh's abilities kind of feel like they belong to other characters already, but then with the flare and the toss and the armor, I mean, it just feels different altogether.
It really does, and it's going to play different too, inherently, because of that. But yeah, it'll be a lot of fun regardless of what happens, and maybe that's what opens up certain abilities to new players, right? Maybe the Varian taunt never connected with the person, but they try taunt with Garrosh, and suddenly it makes sense, and now they have two heroes they can play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe it was the DPS with Varian that just made the AoE taunt not work like that, or who knows? They know. They do. Let's get on to your first heroic ability here. What's it called?
This one is called Words of Wisdom. Crying aloud, words passed down to him from generation to generation, Morgl fills the hearts of his compatriots with strength and the souls of his enemies with fear. This is a global buff for his team and debuff for his enemies. As Morgl chants the words, everyone across the board can hear them until the end of the speech. And maybe you see his face and it's partially faded out as he talks and gives this epic Morgling speech.
The flavor of this is really cool. So tell me, when you say a buff and a debuff, is this directly to attack damage, or is this to health regen, or what are we buffing here?
That one I couldn't really decide on, and I wanted to leave this up to you shaman players. Right? What's the most shamanistic buff and debuff you could do? What does it have to do with health? Would it have to do with basic damage, maybe ability damage? I turn to the shaman players out there for that.
Yeah, that's very true. I haven't played a shaman in Warcraft. I played around with it in Hearthstone a bit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it could do a lot of different things. Being a burst assassin here, though, I think attack damage is really going to be beneficial to your team. And although Morgl's not going to get those points, but still, I mean, that's a good place to put that.
Yeah, and sometimes you gotta sacrifice for the greater good. Morgl knows this. He's been around, and maybe that's part of his speech, right? We don't know. No one knows. No one understands what he's saying. But in our heart of hearts, we understand that it's something good, and it gives you power.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your second heroic ability?
The second one is called Thing from Below. When elements are used heavily, all creatures attuned to them take notice, not the least of which is the Thing from Below. This eldritch monstrosity explodes from the ground and begins rampaging through enemy ranks, targeting two at a time with its tentacles and holding them in place. Its other tentacles create this area of swinging damage that knocks foes away who try to come to the aid of their trapped brethren. This ability's cooldown is decreased based on the number of times Morgl has cycled through his basic abilities successfully.
Oh man, there's so much to talk about in this. Okay, so the Thing from below. Is this a kraken-looking creature thing that comes out of the ground, or what does it look like?
Oh, dude, the card design for this thing in Hearthstone is wicked. It's tentacles, but they're open, so you see that squid beak. I mean, you can't even make sense of it. It's just this writhing mass of horror from Lovecraftian literature.
Oh, too cool. So it starts moving in the selected direction here. So we've got something that's like March of the Murlocs, or is this going to push down a lane?
I would imagine this would be something you summon in a team fight. And like Nazebo's big giant, it would just pop up out of the ground where you target it to pop up from. And then immediately target the nearest two enemy heroes.
All right, so it's going to try to wrap him up in the tentacles. I mean, this is really alien style here. Like, grab him with the tentacles and try to, hold on to them. But the coolest part about this is that the cooldown is decreased based on the number of times Morgl has cycled through his basic abilities successfully. That's a cool mechanic there to think about, because he's going to be, firing through these things and get another thing from below faster.
Exactly. And we have something kind of like that with Li Ming, right? Level 20, where you do your abilities in order, no repeats, and each one does more damage. But with this one, it would kind of work with the decrease of the cooldown. And when I say the basic attacks are cast successfully, they hit the targets. They do damage.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
not whiffed.
There's a lot of stuff that works like that in the game right now. I mean, Diva's mech is another thing, right? I mean, you can decrease the cooldown if you're, doing the right stuff to get your mech back, all that cool stuff. I mean, I think this works, and it's a really cool visual of having this sea creature come up from the ground, and I'm assuming like the ground breaks and maybe water shoots out of it or whatever, and you've awakened this beast because Morgl is so powerful.
Exactly. And maybe that's why Morgl has to stunt his power, is because he dug too deep when it came to his elemental reaching outs and practices.
Oh yeah, that is so neat. This build is so colorful, so elemental, and so awesome, Kristen. If you had to sum it all up, how would you sum up the great Morgl the Oracle?
Well, in his own words,
That's it. That's it. We should just end the show right there. I mean, it doesn't get any better. That was a wonderful Murloc impression, one that I'm sure you might have practiced a couple of times.
I may practice in my off time, making sure I've got something that sounds like a Morgl.
You even have your Murky shirt on today. I mean, this is really Team Murloc over here.
Murlocs are serious business. They are great. They are wonderful. And I'm absolutely all for Team Murloc in Heroes one day.
Absolutely. That would be so fun and so funny. And Murky can lead them into battle. Before we get on to my build over here, we have a bunch of people that we need to thank. First and foremost, we need to thank everyone that supports us on Patreon, all of our awesome patrons. It is so cool that you guys help support the show week after week. Thank you so much for doing so. If you're driving in your car right now and you're thinking, man, I love listening to the show week after week, I'm wondering how I can support them. Well, that's how you do it. You do it on patreon.com/HeroesForge. Head on over there, not while you're in the car driving, of course. We don't want you to get a ticket or get into an accident or anything crazy. But when you get to your destination, go to patreon.com/HeroesForge. Check out all of our awesome pledge goals, and you can see all of our awesome patrons over there. And thank you again to our patrons that help support us. Thank you to everyone that's given the show a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps the show grow. Tell all of your friends about HeroesForge. Make sure when they search on iTunes, they're searching for HeroesForge, all one word. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into my build over here, and I'm going with Morgl the Oracle, the support Murloc.
Oh, support. So was it one of those you looked at Morgl and went, he's a support, or this came after building him?
I was really leaning towards assassin at the start of this. I was like, yes, he's going to be a Murloc assassin like yours, and it's going to be so badass and just awesome out there on the battlefield. And then I was like, you know what? I got to go a different route here, because I did what you did. I popped into Hearthstone, played some games. I found some of the cards and stuff I was having the most fun with were some of the more supporty, quote unquote, cards. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and challenge myself to build a support Murloc here. That's a shaman, but different. I mean, you'll see. And let's get into it a little bit with the trait here. The trait is called Overload. And remember how I was talking about that Thrall quote from earlier? I forgot that I actually put it in my build here. So the world shaman Thrall describes Morgl as a shaman who, quote, whose abilities surpass all others, suggesting that he is truly powerful. But this power comes with a price in the Nexus. In the game, Morgl's mana is managed with mana crystals, just like in Hearthstone. With each hero level that Morgl gains, he will gain more mana crystals and allow him to cast more of his abilities. Each mana crystal has its own cooldown, and once used, Morgl will need to wait till the cooldown is complete until he can use that crystal again. If Morgl chooses, he can overload any of his basic abilities that have become, and then they will become enhanced. But to do this, he must pay an overload price. Overloaded abilities will cost the same amount of mana, but will have twice the cooldown for the mana crystal for the Morgl player. This will make Morgl a support player that has the potential for massive burst healing, but will also need to manage his mana crystals to gain maximum efficiency.
I like this. I like that we're kind of going toward a burst heal, because in the end, I feel that's really good, right? That would be really good right now in games, right? Because there's so much burst damage. You gotta counteract that with the burst heals.
Yeah, and I mean, like Uther, right? That's sort of a burst heal. It's on a long cooldown, but I mean, even Stukov has his D, so he's got that little bit of burst heal feel, and nothing feels better than being able to provide super burst heal. But the price you're paying here is that you're overloading your basic abilities, which is just like Hearthstone, where, you know, you're running into issues because you're using mana faster than you should be, and that's the give and take there. So for his mounting ability on my side, I said that he would just have a floating, what I'm calling shaman stingray. Whatever that means to you, Kristen, that's exactly what it is.
Well, it would work. He's a Murloc. He's in tune with the sea. Of course he'd have a giant stingray.
Yeah, it's like maybe a manta ray or a sting, just this big ol', you know, floating, and maybe it's got like water that's underneath it, kind of like the surfboard, and the manta ray just kind of flies around the battlefield.
Oh, that would be adorable. And then, of course, with the skin changes, you could have like a black one, or maybe there's a red one with little angry eyes drawn on the top.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see some of these other characters too. Maybe next summer they'll come out with another Murloc and they'll be like, Summer of Heroes 3.0, and there's a massive stingray mount, because we know that's what you all want.
Well, of course. Stingrays are pretty cool. Stingrays are pretty awesome. I mean, I think more people than would choose it than would admit they would choose it as a mount.
Oh, absolutely. I would. Let's get into some of these basic abilities, and like yours, Kristen, mine are based off of Hearthstone cards. So the first one is called Healing Wave. So classic Shaman Hearthstone spell here, but in the Nexus it would have a bit of a twist. This would be Morgl's main support ability and have a huge healing output. This is the burst here. When selected, Morgl will send forth a friendly Murloc that will ride on the back of the selected friendly hero. This Murloc will be pulsing with a healing wave that will heal the targeted hero and other heroes in a small area around them. If this spell is cast with Overload, the Murloc will also grant a movement speed buff to the hero that they're on the back of. This would be illustrated by the Murloc carrying a trumpet and playing a charge tune.
Okay, this needs visual clarification here. All right, so does Morgl take the Murloc out of his staff and throw it on something, or does the little Murloc appear and then run and climb up the hero?
No, he plucks him from his fishbowl. Now, this I should say this here. No Murlocs were harmed in the making of this hero. So these Murlocs are ready to fight. I mean, they're ready to go in and support. So he reaches in, grabs him, tosses him on the enemy or on the friendly hero. It latches on the back and then just starts like pulsing out, because it is like a little Padawan Murloc, right? It knows what's up.
Just totally whispering in the hero's ears, creepily grabbing his shoulders. Is it a massage? We don't know. But now, what does the pulse look like? Is it kind of like a slimy thing? Does it coat the hero in a healing slime?
Ooh, I like the idea of some sort of shaman slime. We're just making up a whole bunch of stuff on the show today. Let's say shaman slime is what really is gonna be healing this friendly hero. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, This is like the direct opposite of what you came up with as far as, you know, that one basic ability that you had, Rockbiter Weapons, which is allowing this burst to happen outside of heroes. Well, this is a little Murloc that's giving that little burst of healing.
Mm-hmm. And I like, too, that when you enhance it, you've come up with a visual that clearly states this little Murloc is enhanced with the trumpet. Okay, so how many crystals would you say you'd be working with at this point? Or, I mean, throughout the game, how would this scale?
That's a really good question. And I think you'd have to play around with it a whole bunch to make it really work and to make it, you know, balanced. You could do a crystal a level like in Hearthstone, but maybe that's not strong enough at the start of the game. Maybe you're really late game hero at that point. Maybe that's what they would want to go with. Maybe you start with 5 crystals and something like that, and maybe only gain one every 4 levels or whatever. It'd have to be really balanced, and I think that would take a bunch of play testing to find out how it felt good, how it felt like you would want to overload something, but only at the right time. So that's kind of a balanced numbers thing that I'm not really sure.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough, right? Because it would be an entirely new way to track something in Heroes, and that would take a lot of discussion and testing and planning. Now, with these, can you have? Would the ability end before you could? Sorry, let me rephrase this. I've got the question. The words aren't coming. So, a Murloc is on your ally. Would that Murloc still exist by the time this ability has cooled down, so you could potentially have 2 support Murlocs?
I think no, unless talented into.
Okay, I think that's fair, right? Because who wants to fight a team who's got passive heals assigned to each hero running around?
Yeah, it's game's over. GG. I mean, maybe that's a level 20 where he has the ability to pluck more than one of his little Murloc friends out of the fishbowl and throw them around. But just imagine just one. Oh, just give that to your tank, right? Throw it in on your tank. Your tank is pulsing, healing to your whole team as they're in the middle of the fight, and you don't have to be in there because you can be doing other abilities like this second one. This second one's called Stormcrack. So Morgl summons a black cloud from the battlefield in a select location. All enemies that come near the cloud will be continuously struck with lightning. The cloud will only last for a select amount of time and will remain stationary unless the player chooses to overload this ability. If they do, the cloud will follow the first enemy that comes in range until the cloud's timer is complete.
Oh, nice. So Winnie the Pooh, but taken to Heroes. Little Black Rain Cloud doesn't have anything on this ability. Okay, so this one, I really, really like the overload here. How fast would the cloud move? Would it be faster than the laser? I mean, could it keep up with a hero? Would it be worth overloading?
Yeah, I think it moves as fast as you move. You can't outrun it. I mean, even if you ran as fast as you could, or maybe even vaulted or did some sort of movement ability like a diva dash forward or something, it would just stay on top of you. Now, it would need some sort of visual for the enemy team to know that that specific cloud that was placed on the battlefield was overloaded, so that they had the opportunity to not run underneath it if it wasn't placed in like a team fight situation.
Cool. And in that case, what's the area of this cloud? I mean, what kind of zone would it create?
I think it would be about the same size as the cloud mount. At least that's what I have in my head. So it's not super big.
Yeah, but big enough to cause some chaos in a very tightly balled team fight.
Yeah. So that's my take on the Stormcrack Hearthstone card. Now the next one is called Tidal Surge, which is also a Hearthstone card here. So using this ability, it will send a wave in a select direction and push all enemies away from the Morgl player. If this ability is overloaded when it's cast, it will push all the enemies just a little bit further, but then the wave comes crashing down on them and stuns them at the end of the range of the cast.
Oh, cool. So they wouldn't even have to be knocked into anything. It just stuns them outright if it's got that overload.
Yeah, so kind of like a slower version of Ariel's Whip.
Yes. So slower version, does that mean enemy players have time to get out of the way.
They do, but if caught in the wave, you are pushed for the duration of it. So it's like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a Stukov arm in a way, but it's not infinity like that until you hit a wall. It's like a combo of all those.
Yeah, I totally get you. It's like Zamboni width, maybe 2 Zambonis wide, and it just goes forward. If you're far enough away and you react fast enough, you won't get caught. But if it touches you, you're in for the long run.
That's right. You're just tumbling in the wave, tumbling. And if the Morgl player overloaded it, when the wave hits the end of the path, it crashes on you and you get stunned for a short amount of time.
See, these abilities, this one makes me really wish there was something in Heroes where sea critter skins had special interactions with abilities, right? Because how do you tidal wave Admiral Krakenov? Wouldn't he be in his home environment?
Yeah, maybe he just lives it up and like he's suddenly on the bow of a ship and he's just riding the wave.
Exactly. He still gets stunned at the end because when you hit the ground and water crashes down on you, it's a little rough. But I love this whole basically get out of my face. I'm out of this fight. You're out of this fight. My team's out of this fight. We're going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I wanted it to feel. I mean, there's just this big tidal surge coming in. So this next one is my first heroic ability called Devolve. Kristen, you got to keep me honest on this and tell me if you actually think this is something that would A, work, and B, be something that would be useful. So Devolve. When the Morgl player activates this ability, a massive energy explosion is called down from the sky. All enemy heroes that are in the area of this effect of this explosion are devolved, and their hero level is lowered by 1 for a short period of time. Talent choices will be lost if the enemy hero's level is devolved to a lower level than the level that the talent was chosen at. For example, if the enemy team is level 10 and they're hit with this ability, they will be devolved to 9 and lose their heroic abilities for a short duration of time.
I think this would be an auto pick if you were levels behind in a game. This would absolutely be an auto pick because that would totally balance team fights. Now, of course, maybe later on the game, once you've taken the lead, the value wouldn't be as extreme, but the value would still be there. Imagine you getting into a fight, you're both 20s, you drop this, like you said, the 10 to 9, the 20 to 19, and you take it.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that this could work. Now, the issue that I foresee is late game. Like, after 20, how much does it really matter? I mean, you have to really plan your team fights to come up with some, good times to fight to devolve them.
That's a good point. So what if then, because level 20, you could augment this. So maybe the augment is what gives it that special flavor that you need it to still have value so late into a game, because we've all been in those level 25 games where one mistake means the end of it, and it is in no means a stomp on either side.
Yeah, maybe the level 20 augment to this is that they lose their heroic. Like, you'll lose your heroic if in a team fight. Maybe that's too powerful. Maybe you lose your storm talent if they're level 20. I mean, they'd have to play with the 20 on this and to make it useful at the end of the game here. So I came up with the second heroic, and the second heroic is called Reincarnate. So this is also a little crazy. So Morgl selects a friendly hero and they will instantly be killed. This hero does not reward experience for the enemy team, but after 3 seconds is resurrected in a location of the Morgl player's choosing and will receive full health.
Dude, this is gross. It's good, but it's so gross for the enemy team. You are denying them XP at this point. This is Dota 2. This is gross, right? Because in Dota 2, you're in a lane against somebody. You can kill your own lane minion to deny an enemy a last hit, denying him gold and denying him XP. So this is the same thing, except the gold factor is tossed out.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of sprinkle on the possible troll factor in here, which we talk about in the game or in the show a lot about what's the balance for the troll factor. And I think with Garrosh, we may have the door may be opening a tiny bit for a troll ability with his toss of his own friendly heroes. So I'm hoping it doesn't go that direction. I mean, we got to kind of secret this and, you know, not talk about it ever when people are just throwing you around, just trying to be, you know, crap heads.
Right? But slowly but surely, Blizzard's been sneaking things in here like this. We've got that friendly hook with Stitches. There was a real fear there that Stitches were going to abuse that power. But so far, that's never really been a huge point of contention anywhere I've seen. Also, the Ariel Aegis, that one, people were scared. But again, I mean, after talking with some people, it comes down to balancing the cost of the ability. And if you make it so expensive people don't want to use it to troll, or then you don't really have trolls because it means something when you cast it.
Yeah, I believe in us as a heroes community and that they can add cool abilities. Maybe not like this one, but like this one where you have, you know, the ability to deny the enemy team of the experience they would get from killing someone. Also, you get to place this person 3 seconds later in a location that you choose and you'll have full health. So, I mean, this is kind of like an ancestral heal, but not because they die and they're off the battlefield for 3 seconds. And maybe it's more powerful because of that, but maybe it's weaker because of that. I mean, I don't know.
I think the repositioning is what really makes it a cool ability, because you're not bringing them back where they were in trouble in the first place. That's probably the most frustrating part about Ariel's Resurrect, is if the fight's going south and they it's one of your squishies rezzing in the middle of the enemy team, they're just going to get killed again. Whereas this, you completely circumvent that by choosing, I'm assuming somewhere nearby, that they come back to life in.
Yeah, it's got an area that you can put them back in, which wouldn't be super huge, you know. So that's my Morgl, the support build there. So he is the opposite, the light side to the dark side here. I mean, he's the opposite of the burst damage. He's a really bursty healer because he gives the power of other players an AoE heal that's just pulsing, and then he can push people away and kind of support in that aspect.
Yep, and I love the idea that both of us have kind of gone with this Morgl supporting his team. We all know he's super powerful, but for some reason, the little guy, it seems like he's more powerful with the power of friendship.
The more you know. Absolutely. The power of Murloc friendship is unimaginable. I mean, it's just, there are no words for it. But before we can call Morgl officially forged here, there's one more thing that I wanted to say. Almost moved into the next part without saying it. I also believe that Morgl would be a full hero. He wouldn't be a Murky status hero. I think that that's okay for them to do too, because Murky's got his own thing. He's kind of, you know, he's kind of just like, you know, fish brains running around the Nexus and stuff. This is Morgl, like you said, a full-fledged hero.
Yeah, he's a member of the Earthen Ring, for crying out loud. You don't become a member of the Earthen Ring just because you asked.
No. Maybe he did, though, because he was all friends with them, because that's, again, the power of friendship. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into specialty skins and dance moves. I'll kick this one off this week with my specialty skin. It's called Fisherman. So he's in a full-on fishing outfit. But instead of his staff, he's got a fishing pole, obviously. But at the end of his fishing pole, he either has a WoW token, a Hearthstone card pack, or a Heroes of the Storm loot chest for bait. And the outfit shows that he is turning the tables on what we know as fishermen. And the hunted have become the hunters.
Well, now we need a whole new build for this one. Could you imagine his bloodlust? Just... oh, wow, the tidal wave comes toward you so you can hook them all on this new thing. Oh, I love the tagline. The hunted have become the hunter.
Yeah, and I was thinking, because originally I was like, well, he could have a cheeseburger at the end of his fishing pole. I'm like, no, what do we really want? We want free WoW time. We want Hearthstone card packs. Maybe the card pack would even change with the season so that, like, when the new expansion was about to come out but not out yet, it's like the Knights of the Frozen Throne ones right now, and everybody's like, ooh, I want that.
Right, or maybe you even have stuffed versions of heroes that aren't in the Nexus yet. Still stuffed Kel'Thuzad going out. We got a stuffed Yrel. I mean, everyone's chasing after it. Nobody sees the danger until it's too late.
That's right. That's totally right. What are you thinking for skins?
Okay, for skins, you'd have to have elemental skins for this little guy, right? We've got elemental skins for Thrall, and as a shaman, elements, man. Are you wind? Are you fire? Are you earth? You can make the choice. When we were talking earlier, you could have a Yoda puppet version of this guy. It would totally work. But what if we had a Captain Planet? He would be made of all the elements, including heart, which is the strongest of all elements. And he would have a mullet. He would be the first Murloc to have a mullet.
That's a winner. Winner, chicken dinner right there. Captain Planet, Murloc, Morgl. I mean, he would have that teal skin. I mean, even tealer than his actual skin. I mean, he'd have to have like the full on, mullet and the tight bodysuit and just be awesome.
Right? The little red pants and the red boots. It would be great. And I mean, he's of the elements, so it makes sense he'd be against those that want to destroy the balance of the world.
God, you're so good at this. What is your dance move for Morgl?
Okay, so this one's not a specific dance, but I'm calling it a rock dance. Older than many, Morgl doesn't have the moves he once did. That's why he uses his staff to command the rocks under his feet to get them jumping. So you see little rocks coming up under his feet, getting it to look like he's doing a little dance.
That's great. So you're picturing Morgl here as like Deckard Cain status, like old man.
Exactly. Much, much older, because this amount of power, I assume, takes a long time to accumulate. So I would imagine, regardless of how old Murlocs live in comparison to other heroes, he's pretty old for his age.
Absolutely, yeah, because they don't live for very long, right? I mean, in the lore.
I don't actually know how long Murlocs live, but I can assume as little critters, probably not too long. But again, I have no idea.
I actually don't know either, but I have to bring up a few things that chat is talking about here. They're saying the dance should be called Rock Lobster.
And then so instead of the rocks doing the dancing, little lobsters are summoned from his little sea pool that he can summon because he's a shaman. And then they do little dances with him. Maybe there's like a little cane that they all hold.
And they do like a little kick line.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think I've already lost Ogre 22's vote in the chat saying that they need to vote for the Moloch.
Oh, there we go.
All right, my dance move over here is that he's going to summon a wave that's going to move around in a circle, and he's going to do a backstroke while spitting water in the air. So I'm obviously seeing him a little more agile, although if you're going to exercise and your joints hurt and maybe you're older and, you can't go out there and, do, CrossFit, you're going to be swimming. So that's his thing.
You 100% hit it on the nose. Swimming is great. And I mean, Murlocs in water, they're made for one another. They're always living by water. You have to. So I think him swimming would be great. But what if too, you eventually get like a level 20 dance move, it evolves as you level it instead of the taunts. And so like a fountain raises out of the ground and there are other little Murlocs with them. And maybe the Murlocs from his staff jump in and they do a little water dance.
That's what needs to happen. They really need to fix the taunts, but if they're gonna fix the taunts, it's got to be moved over to the dance moves. So like, give something for masters. That's a whole different thing. I don't know. You guys are the geniuses. You can come up with that. But then change the taunts to enhanced dance moves, because that's what we want.
Well, I mean, the thing I've seen most, everyone sprays their spray, and then if you're feeling fun, you do a dance. Rarely are the taunts thrown out. But I mean, maybe that's habit, right? Because I know I need to practice throwing out my taunts a bit more.
Yeah, and in Team League this week, I saw you throwing out some taunts in there, and I was like, oh, I guess I should do that. Except mine didn't really have the cool, like, you know, I'm a master at this hero taunt. But, I mean, yours looked really cool.
Oh, well, lots of hard work, right? Lots of hours thrown in there.
That's right. I think with all of these awesome dance move ideas, we can say that Morgl, the Oracle, has been forged. Man, let me just tell you right now that the reason that I thought of all of this was because the Nexus, yes, needs more Murlocs. Yes, it would be really cool to have another Murloc in there. The Nexus really needs, like, I believe really desperately needs, more than a Draenei, I think, a Hearthstone character.
Yeah, you'd be right on that account. I mean, it makes sense why with Warcraft, because it's just such a huge, huge world. But you're right. No Hearthstone character has been brought in, right? An original Hearthstone character?
No, and you know, it would have its own Hearthstone icon in the hero selection, and Hearthstone is huge right now, and Hearthstone is everywhere. Mobile devices, everybody's playing all this stuff. I mean, it possibly could draw in a whole different audience of people into the game, right? The Innkeeper is obviously on the horizon. I mean, they've got to do something with the Innkeeper because people have been asking for that like crazy. And that's a BlizzCon reveal if I've ever heard one. But I think that there's a place, and we've talked a lot about, you know, Hearthstone characters on this show, and, you know, a lot of different ones that are, you know, living in that world of Hearthstone only. And then they transition into Warcraft, which is really cool. We talked about it before. But I think there's a place for them, and I think somebody like Morgl would be awesome.
Yeah, someone that not only lives in Hearthstone, but also Warcraft, because they're so beloved, and the jokes and the humor and the fantasy that goes with it has been so embraced by so many of the communities that you're starting to see that transition, the spread, that the idea that Hearthstone can have a single card that can affect so many people in such a wonderful way that is then transitioned over to other of their IPs.
Yeah, and you know, Chad has got a really good point, like with the whole crossover of Warcraft, and if that's, you know, even a thing, like maybe they could just bring Morgl in and say that he was a Warcraft hero, because I mean, that's really the same universe that they live in. Although they did take away the subtitle to Hearthstone. It used to be called Heroes of Warcraft, and now it's just called Hearthstone, and I think they are, as we've seen over the last, you know, year or more, that they're experimenting with their own lore, their own stories, their own characters that then make their way in. So I'm not sure if it would work or not, but I would love it. Maybe that's the biggest point here. I would love to see an Innkeeper, you know, all these characters that are just in like the League of Explorers, the ones that aren't in Warcraft originally. Like, I want to see these characters in Heroes.
Oh, certainly. And there's just enough lore to have this base behind it that gives it weight and enough color that the kits kind of build themselves.
Yeah, it's really cool. And there's a great opportunity to do some cool stuff there. So maybe it's Morgl, maybe it's not, maybe it won't ever happen, but Morgl would be a great place to go because people love Murlocs.
There's no stopping the Murloc love. Every single person, whether they admit it or deny it, there's some Murloc love deep down, right? They're horrid, nasty little fish creatures that make terrifying sound. They're covered in slime. They're probably cold to the touch, and they probably smell of dead fish. But, you know, you just can't help but love these people who have survived on the edge of humanity for as long as anyone can remember.
Love conquers all. That's the final thought of this episode. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs when you are not on HeroesForge?
People can find me in the interwebs at Dream Destroyer. That is DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And you were telling me a little bit about what you're playing now.
Yes, I am now going through my first playthrough of Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary Edition, and it is beautiful, glorious even.
So that's a very good segue. I mean, The Witcher, just straight into Duke Nukem 3D. I mean, they really play well together.
Hey, it was challenging. After The Witcher, I feel like I need at least a week to recover.
Yeah.
But there are games that have to be played. And it's a good cool down because The Witcher was really heavy. Really, really heavy lore-wise. This one is just fun, fancy-free, monsters. You kill the monsters. That's really about as deep as the lore goes, maybe.
Oh, who knows? Well, find out later on Dream Destroyer's Twitch channel. You've got to check it out. Watching Kristen play is really awesome. Head over there and give her a follow and a sub on that channel. You can find me right here on HeroesForge every single Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. We record the show live on twitch.tv/Amove TV because we are part of the Amove TV podcast and entertainment network. For more great esports and video game podcasts, head over to amove.tv. Check them all out. They are so good, and it's so fun to listen to, and just add it to your podcast collection because they're free. I mean, you could just go on and listen to podcasts for free. It's a ton of fun. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Forge Heroes, where the vote goes up live after the show's recorded every Sunday night. If you have an idea for a hero that you would like to see in the Nexus, send us an idea and we can talk about it. It's contactheroesforge@gmail.com. You can send us just the name of a hero. If you built a whole kit, you can send it to us and we'll take a look at it. We do a featured Forger episode once a month where we feature one of the kits that was sent to us by the community by someone like you. So do it. Send us a tweet or an email, and you can visit our website, which is heroesforge.club, for all of the previous builds that we've done and a link to all the kits and show notes on each build. Thank you again to all of our current supporters on patreon.com/heroesforge. Couldn't do the show without you. Thank you to chat, who's also awesome and throwing ideas back and forth at us every single week. It makes the show a lot of fun. Also, thank you to everyone again for the iTunes ratings. They really help the show grow. And Kristen, thank you for being an awesome co-host and bringing the energy every single week.
Dude, thank you for being an awesome host and putting this all together and bringing your own energy every week. The show rocks. You guys rock. Everybody rocks.
Even Morgl rocks, I totally think. Any last thoughts on Morgl the Oracle?
I love him. I love all Murlocs very, very much. I would love to see him in there, and I would love to see him bring a different side to the shaman role. Opposite Thrall. Maybe not, evil shaman. No. But other things shamanistic powers could do. Yes,
and if you take away anything from this episode, it's the mullet. We're going to call the show there. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you all in the real world.